Hi guys, I'm Taylor. I'm going to be doing reviews for you. I'm going to say a lot as well because I'm new to this, sorry. I decided that I wanted to do some kind of video blogging, and also my friend said that if I did one he would do one as well, so I had to do it. I've laid down the gauntlet now. First of all, I just want to say I live in a very busy Edinburgh street, so if there's a lot of background noise, I apologise. I don't know how to get rid of that. I don't know anything about video editing. I don't have any video editing software, so everything you see and hear right now is 100% me, including the sirens in the background. Great timing, thanks for that. I also live very close to a hospital and a police station, so bear with me. The first book that I'm going to do for you today is Exodus Code, Torchwood, written by John and Carole E. Barrowman. I will tell you a little bit about the authors first before I go on to the book or anything inside it. More noise outside. The authors, John and Carole E. Barrowman, are brother and sister. They were brought up in Scotland until at least I know John was 8. I'm not sure of the age gap between the both of them. Please forgive that. Didn't really occur to me to look into that. They moved to America when they were 8 years old, but have since sort of, became big names. Carole herself is an author. John admits she does most of the work, although he doesn't do nothing, of course. They have collaborated on many projects together, including John's autobiography, Anything Goes. It's the ones I know of. This is the first Torchwood book that they work on, that anyone worked on. They did a comic after Torchwood went on permanent hiatus, or indefinite hiatus, but we just kind of assume it's permanent. They did a comic together, and then after that they were given permission to write books. John Barrowman, for those who don't know, plays Captain Jack on the cover. He is a character in Torchwood that was created in Doctor Who and got his own spin-off. A little bit of brief history, just for those who don't know. Captain Jack is, of course, played by John Barrowman. He meets the Doctor, the 9th incarnation, which was Christopher Eccleston, while he is in London during World War II with Billie Piper, who plays Rose Tyler. At the time, he is a con artist. He has previously been a time agent, who kind of gets a little bit pissed off because the time agency steals years of his life, and he kind of goes a bit bad and decides to get his own back. That's how he meets the Doctor, and the Doctor sets him on the right path again. Won't spoil the rest of it for anybody out there thinking, oh great, I want to watch that. I haven't seen it. Honestly, that is a drop in the ocean between what happens. He then goes on to open up Torchwood, which is like a government funded agency that Queen Mary of Scots, no, Queen Victoria, one of them, opens in Doctor Who. Again, not spoiling very much, it's a drop in the ocean compared to what actually happens. But anyway, that's enough of that for those of you who don't care. So this first book, again written by the both of them, sees Jack after the events of Torchwood. So for those of you out there who are thinking, oh, you need to see Doctor Who and Torchwood to understand what's going on in the book, you don't. Because anything that you need to know specifically about Jack or the world or anything is in the book. Yes, it might benefit you to actually know some things that are going on in the book, beforehand, anything that's implied, but it's not necessary. You could still quite happily read this book and understand it without having seen anything ever to do with Doctor Who or Torchwood. It might give you more of an insight, it might make the things that happen in it seem more realistic, as anything realistic can be when it comes to Doctor Who and Torchwood, But again, not necessary. I'm just going to quickly read you the back. It says, from Torchwood star John Barrowman and Carole Barrowman, an epic thriller that finds Captain Jack and Gwen in a race to save humanity itself. Gwen is a character from Torchwood. Again, you don't need to know anything from Torchwood to know who she is. She was just a member of Torchwood. She was played by the amazing Eve Miles. It starts with a series of unexplained events, earth tremors across the globe, women being driven insane by their scrambled senses. Governments and scientists are bewildered. The world needs Torchwood, but there's not much of Torchwood left. Dun dun dun. Captain Jack Harkness has tracked the problem to its source, a village in Peru, where he's uncovered evidence of alien involvement. In Cardiff, Gwen Cooper has discovered something alien and somehow connected to Jack. If the world is to be restored, she has to warn him, but she's quickly becoming a victim of the madness too. The reason I read you that is because a lot of people hear a lot of things about books, but never actually go and look into them, and sometimes it can just be the blurb that catches your attention enough. So there you go. It's published by BBC Books, so I'm assuming it would be available in America, also from the fact that it's got US and Canadian pricing on the back. Let's jump in, shall we? It jumps between 1930 and the present day, also between Wales, Cardiff, Peru, and a high-tech trawler boat that sails the seas called the Ice Maiden, if memory serves. For those of you who have watched Torchwood and Doctor Who, or indeed just Torchwood, it brings back a few of the favourites, the familiars, such as Captain Jack himself, played by John Barrowman. Again, like I said, Gwen Cooper, played by Eve Miles. Her husband Rhys, whose real name has gone right out the window, I'm sorry about that. And Rex Matheson makes an appearance from the from the Miracle Day episodes of Torchwood, which this takes place afterwards. For those of you who haven't, and of course for those who have seen Torchwood, you get a whole array of new characters, such as Gaia, who is set in the 1930s Peru. You get Isela, she's set in the present day in Peru. Sorry, my notes are over there. You get Cash, he is on the boat. You get people, doctors, and people in Cardiff, people in Virginia. Did I say Wales and Cardiff? What I meant was Cardiff and Virginia. You get a whole array of people, including my favourite, which is Hollis, and he is on the trawler boat. You'll probably see why he's my favourite. He says some things that just made me laugh, and I just love him. Anyway, the narrative. Let's go on to the narrative. There is so much material in this book for the story. It's insane. Let me just say that the story itself never stops. It never stops. You think, you read books and you get sort of all this action, and then there's a lull, and then there's lots of action again, and maybe there's a climax or an anticlimax or whatever. This doesn't happen in this book. This book is, from the get-go, always something. And it doesn't have to be a big chase. It doesn't have to be something violent, anything. It's just, from the get-go, there's always stuff going on. And because this is set sort of from Jack's point of view for most of it, you get a lot of Jack's thinking, but you don't get what he's actually thinking, if that makes any sense. Like, you feel what he feels. It's all described. It's all very sensory. But it never actually says properly what he's thinking. So to the very end, you are completely like, what's he found out? What's he thinking? So even from those little tiny, what connection has he made? You're still hooked. You're still like, oh, okay, something's happened here. Something's happened. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, some big massive chase, some big massive thing going on. It's just, and there's so much material for that. And then you add in from a descriptive point of view, I have never come across a book like this before. And I can say that with certainty. And I haven't read very many books, I have to admit. I've read a lot of books, but not, you know, people say, oh, I've read so many classics. I haven't read a lot of classics because they don't really appeal to me very much. But in terms of, you know, imaginative books like Jacqueline Wilson, stuff like that, I have read most of them. You know, things that rely on heavy description. This is a book I have never came across as an adult book. It's so descriptive that I was actually, if I could compare it to looking at Van Gogh's Starry Night. Now, you're going to be like, wait, what? But if someone was trying to explain to me Van Gogh's Starry Night, for those of you who don't know, or maybe who need reminded, it's the painting. It's featured a little bit in Doctor Who as well, but again, you don't need to know that. It's just it's just a picture of a starry night, but instead of the sort of the usual star, 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 it's very sort of wavy, and you can almost see the wind, the way the wind contorts the picture, and you see it, and you almost feel like you can feel the wind. You know, if you stare at it long enough, you could almost feel like you can see exactly what he saw at that moment. You can feel the wind as he felt it. You can hear it. And I'm not exaggerating. Look at it. Really look into Van Gogh. Look into the way he painted. That's how he saw colours. But for someone who doesn't see colours like that, you feel like you can hear the wind. And I'm not going to Pocahontas on you. I'm being serious. And with this book, you really do feel like you can taste what he can taste, and you can see what he can see, and you know, you feel dizzy when he feels dizzy, and you can hear what he can. It's very sensory, and you'll see what I mean when you read it. I almost felt as overwhelmed by my senses as the character does, and I am not exaggerating. People have to be like, yeah, okay, but you really do, because you get into this mindset where you're imagining what he's feeling, and you know, he's describing, oh, this tastes like lemon, and oh, the smell filled his nostrils, and it was overwhelming, and he felt faint, and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, that's a lot, you know, that is a lot of stuff going on, and it's all happening, and you feel it, and you get drawn into it, and you feel as confused, or as turned on, or as whatever the character feels in that moment. And you'll see what I mean by turned on. I don't mean it in a weird way, like sitting reading it like 50 Shades of Grey. It's not like that. It's just, it's very sort of, it's the one adult book I would say that really describes from every angle, and it's brilliant. The language in it is so varied, you never really feel like they're repeating themselves. You never feel like, you know, like, I'm a fan fiction writer, so we all know what it's like to hear repeating yourself, like, fought for dominance and shit like that. And I am, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to swear there. And, I mean, I'm no angel. I mean, I use the phrase exhaled a laugh a lot, and it really annoys me when I see myself use it. But this book, from start to finish, you just knew exactly. There was no question about what he was feeling. And it's quite hard for a book to do that, to be so descriptive, and, you know, still not have you in any confusion about what's physically happening. I mean, you can describe everything Jack's feeling at that moment, and you know exactly where he's standing, where all the other people are standing, what they're doing, what's about to happen. You know that nothing's happened in the minute that they stopped explaining the physical stuff to, you know, Jack's feelings, to then what's happening again. You know that was like a pause. You know that nothing's happened in those minutes. It's insane. It's quite hard for that to happen, as I was saying. And a book to be this size, I mean, it's 364 pages, and you never feel like there's a page wasted. There's never, you know, and most importantly, you never think, alright, okay, I get it, move on now. You know exactly what's going on, who's feeling what, and you never feel like there's too much description or not enough. And it's really hard for a book to do that in such a short space, especially a sci-fi book. I mean, I would count this as a sci-fi book. Don't know if anybody else would. I would. maybe a stupid question, but anyway, it's really hard, as I was saying, for you to do that. The reason I keep saying that is because the book is set into 4 parts. I don't mean like this is part 1, I mean it's set into 4 parts. There's 72 chapters in those 4 parts, over 364 pages. So the chapters are not very long. And usually I can't be bothered with books that jump back and forward, because like I said, it jumps between the present and things like that. And it also jumps, like, it'll do something in the present and then it'll jump to a different part and it'll say, oh, 2 weeks before that happened. And you think, right, okay. And it might sound like, oh, I can't be bothered with that. But it's actually so easy to follow because of the way they've set it out. Because they've put it into 72 chapters, you never feel like you're being overloaded. If anything, you kind of feel like, oh, okay, we're going over here now. They always leave you wanting more. So you're in Wales and everybody's talking about something, and then it kind of, you know, you go into the next chapter and suddenly you're in Langley, Virginia, and you think, oh, okay, were we done there? Okay, when will we come back to that? Okay, but not in a bad way, not in a, oh, are we done there? Like, I don't really understand. You're completely, like, engrossed. Like, each chapter, if it wasn't set out the way it was, I wouldn't have been able to follow it, because there is so much material and so much description that if it was just set into like 4 parts or, you know, longer chapters, it would kind of drag on, and you would almost feel like, oh my god, you know, I'm still here, this is so much information to get at once, kind of thing. So the way they set it out perfectly matches what's between the pages. Don't think that, you know, all this sci-fi stuff I'm not going to understand, all this description I'm not going to understand, all this material I'm not going to understand. It's brilliant the way they've set it out, especially because it means you can walk away. You know, have you ever been reading a book and you think, I don't want to read anymore, but I want to get to the end of this chapter so that I can stop, you know, like a proper place, so I don't feel like I have to try and read the chapter again to catch up. You never feel like that with this book, because the chapters are like 1 page, 2 page, 5 pages, you know, depending on how much dialogue and stuff is in it. So you can put it down quite often. So even if it does feel like, oh, I'm bored of this now, or I don't really get where this is going, or anything like that, you can put it down. Another great thing about this book, though, is with everything together, you never feel like you're trying to catch up. You feel like, you know, like if you and this book were running a marathon together, there's an image for you, you know, like the marathon being the story, you never feel like you're lagging behind, you know, wait on me kind of thing. But you also never feel like you're in front. You never feel like you know where this is going. You know, like really obvious books where you go, I know the end's gonna be, why am I, yeah, it happened, yeah, I got there first. It never feels like that, and you never feel like, I don't understand it. It's not one of those books that doesn't make sense until you get to the end. You know, like stuff that you heard in the first chapter suddenly makes sense when you read the last page. It's not like that. You feel like you're running alongside. You're maybe a step behind, because it always makes you go, what just happened? But not too much that you're like, I don't understand. It just keeps you enough. I have to say, I struggled to find stuff wrong with this book. I really did, and to be honest with you, I haven't found anything wrong with it. Maybe there's 2 things I would point out. There's nothing wrong with the book, it's just things that I've noticed, if that makes sense. And you know, people saying, oh, you're just being pernickety now. I'm not. I honestly love this book, but in the attempt of being fair, I'll just say a couple of things that I pointed out, that I noticed, pointed out. Because the language is so varied in this book, there is one phrase that, because it's repeated, I noticed, and it's a beat. You know, give me an example. I think it's on page 13, chapter 2. He says something, I can't remember exactly what it is, I have the quote somewhere, but I don't want to go rifling through paper to get it and ruin the audio. It's just, you know, like, Jack waited for a beat, kind of thing. Using it along the lines of a minute, a second, a moment, you know, he waited for a beat, there was a beat before. And I don't know if this is because it's all very sensory, you know, so it's all about heartbeat and the body and stuff. I'm sure I've heard it a couple of times sure I've read it a couple of times in John's autobiography, but don't quote me, because I don't think it was as obvious. So I think it's a phrase that you use, but in this one it's used not overly, but it's noticeable because the rest of the language is so varied. Again, it's probably just me. But I noticed it. I don't have a problem with it. I just noticed it, that's all. There is only one instance of unnecessary explanation which really gets on my nerves. Oh my god, what's happened to the lighting in this room? I'm sorry. It really gets on my nerves. Unnecessary explanation. It's not very noticeable, but I notice it because it's a pet hate of mine. Anybody who's seen Criminal Minds, excuse me, well, and knows the character Emily Prentice will know what I'm talking about. It seems to be her role in the entire programme to explain things or ask questions, the answers to which everybody in the room, including herself, already know. It's clearly just for the audience, and it seems to be her role throughout her time on Criminal Minds. But for somebody who is in her position, she should already know the answers. You know, like, she just asks questions that someone who's been in the police force and who has been in this particular branch of the police force as long as she has, should already know the answers to. And I don't think it's realistic, because, you know, if it was a normal work environment, you would say, why are you asking that? You should already know that. And there's one instance of this in the book where they're all standing around on the trawler, and they've all been standing in that room, and one of them explains what they've all been talking about, even though they've all been standing there talking about it. And, you know, and you just kind of go, if that was in real life, you would kind of say, why are you repeating yourself? And it's, I don't mean to be horrible, but it seemed a little bit lazy, because Hollis is the cook on the ship. So it would be very easy, and they haven't done it, or they've only done it once, where Hollis will be in a different room, and he's the cook, you know, so he'll come in with food, or he'll go out to get food, and he'll come back in and he'll say, what did I miss? It would have been very easy for them to do that, or something along those lines, because a few of the people, well, one of the people, again, don't want to ruin it, one of the people on board is having a little bit of trouble, and it would have been so easy for her to excuse herself, to come back in and go, okay, what did I miss? And it stuck out. Again, it's not a problem, it's just because it's a pet hate of mine. I just noticed it, that's all. Overall, I absolutely love this book. Is it obvious? I love John Barrowman, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, and I love Captain Jack, so again, maybe I'm a little bit biased. But this book really did strike me, so I can't really wait to read the rest, and until I have money, I'm gonna have to. They're not actually that expensive, I'm just real skin. Overall, I would give this book, Exodus Code, 9 out of 10, because it's awesome, and I think you should definitely read it. I am going to try and get some links up for you in the description. I will also try and get some American links for you, because obviously I live here, so my computer would default to UK. I'll try and get things like Barnes & Noble. I'll put on Amazon just because you can usually get it sent to America and other places. I know I'm defaulting to America, but because it's BBC books, I'm not sure where they publish to. So anyway, let me know what you think, and any suggestions on books or whatever, comment below. Thanks.